Bolehills is a BMX track. It was built in 1983 in the sort of BMX boom of the 80s, and it's evolved through being a proper track to just being a grotty trail spot, and then more into what you see today, which is like a pump track with massive trail style jumps.
The Sheffield City Council decided they were going to build, I think, 7 BMX tracks in 7 parks across the city. But Bolehills was like the biggest and the best at the time, back in '83. As the BMX boom kind of went down a little bit, the people started coming up and building like dirt jumps and like building their own stuff and like using it as a bit of a playground. And that's kind of like the ethos of it from back in the 80s, is it's just being a bit of a playground where a group can kind of come and just kind of adapt and change things.
I first came in like 98 and 99, where it was like grotty trails, grass growing everywhere. And then in, I think it was 2000, it got fixed up big time and looked more representative of a real racetrack. In 2000-ish, it was pretty big. It was a regional level track, and yeah, we used to have hundreds of people down for racing. Like, it was brilliant. Obviously the jumps weren't quite as big, the trees weren't as big, there was a lot more wind. It was early 2000s style BMX, but it was really good fun and just got loads of people stoked.
Since then it's just progressed, different people have taken it over, different people have got involved. I came to uni and rode here from like 2009, just got more and more involved, and the more involved I got, the deeper I got into digging every winter, and then we ended up just running the club basically. I got handing the reins to the club when one of the top guys moved away to down south, and it's kind of been like that ever since.
I moved back to Sheffield in 2011 and came up here straight away, and it was great. Nice little scene, people digging little dirt jumps, patching up little bits, but it wasn't much. Came up here because a local drone pilot wanted to practice something, so I rode, and seeing it from the air, you could get a different perspective of how far in the grass had grown. Even though you can see it here, when you're looking down, you go, there is a tiny little brown strip of dirt to ride on. Just seeing it from a different perspective changed our perspective. So this needs to be fixed. There were bricks poking through, bits of litter. It was just a bit of a grotty state, and it built this little momentum into getting it fixed, and it turned into a much bigger endeavour than we thought that year, and now we're here, back, rolling. There's a lot of charity involved with the whole place, just the good nature of people helping out. I don't think this place would be here if there wasn't the community behind it, and even though you don't see them all the time, they've paid for it all.
Probably 50% of our income is donations, and other 50% is we sell t-shirts and merch and stickers, and yeah, that's kind of how it's done. We don't really get big cash injections from the council. The council basically see it as it's running itself, so why put any money in?
The council aren't really involved, and as much as it does get our backs up a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because whilst not being involved also means they stay at arm's length, so we can kind of, within respect, do what we want to do. So whilst some help would be nice, we'd rather just do it ourselves and build the track we want, rather than a sanctified vanilla park that isn't going to create this much buzz.
When you want to get something out of them, it's like getting blood from a stone. Getting anything is just really difficult, and it's just a bit of a kick in the teeth when there's like probably thick end of 200 grand being spent in S postcode on BMX tracks.
It's not the most expensive place to build and maintain, and as much as the council will tell you things like this cost 6 figures, you can do it all to this level with a lot less money. You just need some elbow grease.
There's a load of these like tarmac pump tracks popping up, which are mint, but they're like thick end, they're like 100 grand, and it's just insane amount of money for something that in probably 5 years people will be bored of. Whereas here, like, it's been here nearly 40 years and it's still interesting. There's some of the guys that have been riding this since it was made in '83 and still riding it and still finding it entertaining. I think that's kind of true testament to it, really. Last year was a weird old year with COVID. 2020 we didn't do any work, we weren't allowed up here. The council were obviously very strict. The key thing was that the council shut all the play parks everyone got the bikes out of the shed and came to Bolehills because it was like the only thing that was open.
And we just had hundreds of people using their allotted time of exercise to come up and ride, which is properly good. But at the same time, we're just sat there going, oh, the track needs some real love.
We were allowed to come on first week of March, but it was Rule 6 only, so it was 6 of us twice, 3 times a week, just battling it. I think we must have moved 80 or 100 tonne, I think. We moved by hand between 6 of us. It's a lot, it's really a lot. It's just insane. This track has broken up at least 3 relationships. Definitely 3 breakups because of digging at Bolehills too much, absolutely guaranteed. Through 2020, loads of people messaging the page going, oh, it's really good, like amazing facility, and just the amount of the donations we had was just insane. Like there's 3 or 4 years of take-ins in like a year. We've been able to put signs up, we've got some money to put some benches in. Just so many more people got involved and kind of realised it was such a great local facility, and I think there's a lot of people through the pandemic who realised how great Sheffield and like its surrounding area and how nice this valley is.
Since the pandemic, we've made the track a lot more accessible for riders of all sort of ages and abilities. And it's great, it's more egalitarian, loads of people can ride it. If you build something super niche, no one's really going to help look after it, love it and treat it with the respect it deserves. So by casting the net a bit wider, we've ended up with a much stronger community all around.
We have to keep the momentum up with it. If it goes quiet, it just kind of dies a death. Like you've got to be doing events, doing club nights, doing dig days. It's constant. I think that's why it's so like taxing. Like there's a lot to think about, there's a lot to do to keep it running. And it is just a small group of people. Obviously we get loads of volunteer help, like we get so much volunteer help from kids, from uni students, from locals, and I think that's what makes it so good. Like I think if you didn't have that, and it was just, you were just paying someone to come and make it for you, it's just, you haven't got that same love for it. I think the fact that you've patted that lip, or you've barrowed that surface, or you've whacked that in with whacker plate, it's your track. It's not, council have paid someone 150 grand to build it and they've got their little cut out of doing it. Everything's done on a shoestring budget, but like to the best standard we can do it for the money.
If I didn't work on this place, or Dave or Joe or Hannah didn't work on this place, then there wouldn't be a place at the moment, because we're still looking for the next generation of diggers. It sounds pretty obvious, but it's the people that make this place rather than the track itself. And right now we're super lucky because we've got really good people, but we're always sort of looking around who's coming up to pass the shovel to.
It's a space for everyone. Like if kids want to come up and sit in the woods and, you know, drink a can of shit cider or smoke a joint, then who's me to judge? Like if they're doing it there, it's better than doing it on a street corner somewhere, or, you know, in the middle of the park where there's loads of people about. If they're in the woods here, like next to BMX track, kind of taking in that community spirit by osmosis, kind of by being here, eventually they kind of get it, chuck a spade in the hand or get them to fill a couple of barrows and they're like, oh yeah, it's quite enjoyable this. Like, they don't mind like helping out a little bit, and I think that's kind of like why it's so good really. Like everyone gets involved.
I think because it's public, it's instantly more inclusive. Come up first thing in the morning with the dog walkers, and there's the slightly older mountain bikers, so they'll get their laps in early and get their practice for riding first thing before anybody's about, which is brilliant to see. Come up on a Saturday or Sunday morning and it's like kids club on the pump track in the middle, and then there's all the mums and dads who are a bit bored of standing around, and they're the ones now getting a bike and getting involved as well. And then in the evenings it's just shredders of all ages. And I think with the new signage that's a bit more inclusive, the atmosphere, the presence is inviting and inclusive, and it means that families and kids are not scared to come up anytime, even though there's, you know, borderline professionals around. This is a public park. Anybody can come down anytime, drive in, smash it all up, and there's nothing we can do about it because it's a public park, and that's the risk you take. But because we put so much effort in, we like to think that people will help support that. I'm not saying Bolehills is a cornerstone of Sheffield riding, but It's been here a really long time. It's got that lovely history. It's been in old famous mountain bike videos. It's hosted loads and loads of races in its time. It's brought up this amazing pool of talent that we've got, and because it's so accessible to everybody, it's an amazing resource. And you kind of got to look after the things that are important. You don't quite know why they're important, but then you look around and you stop and the birds are tweeting and my friends are riding bikes, and you go, this is all there is, this is great. If this is it, I'm pretty stoked with it.